This is the Action Movie Guys podcast, bringing you action movie reviews from across the decades, plus box office numbers and insight like never before. And now, your hosts of the Action Movie Guys podcast, Alex and Nate.
Welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Action Movie Guys podcast. This is episode 135, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace from 1987. I'm your host, Alex Figueroa, and my co-host is...
Nate from Netflix Reviews.
All right, guys, we're at the final film of the Christopher Reeves donning the Superman suit. And we're going to find out, is this movie actually good to end it all off? Well, we're going to find out now. Nate, this is the first time for Nate watching this movie. You heard about this movie, though, right? What?
I knew of it. I remember, so I actually watched a documentary a while ago on Netflix about the Canon Film Group, and they talked about Superman 4 in that. So I had knowledge of it. And clearly doing this, now watching them, I was prepared. I thought I was prepared. So, yeah, I knew of it.
Yeah, look, for me, I have not seen this in years. I mean, years. And I remember growing up, this was kind of my favorite one. Because, Superman finally got an adversary that he could fight in his same level. But again, does it hold up to Big Papa Al at the age of 39? We're going to find out and see what I think sitting down and rewatching this movie. But again, for those of you that are watching us on YouTube or listening to us on the go, thank you so much for listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube. Hit the like buttons if you enjoyed this video. But yeah, we're going to give you guys the structure. We're going to give you guys the box office numbers, some Rotten Tomato scores into the actual movie reviews for your guys' pleasure. But with that said, let's get right into some Superman 4 1987 box office numbers. Starting off with some domestic, $14 million. Okay. International, $22 million for a worldwide total of $36 million on a budget of $17 million on an opening day of $5 million.
Wait, it made $36 million?
Yep.
That's it? And,
yep.
And there's the fourth one, and it had a budget of $17 million.
Yep.
Okay.
And opening night was $5 million.
That's nothing. Now that's like a Thursday night preview show of a movie now, a one screening on a Thursday night. Okay, well, you know what? I mean, this is the last one with Christopher Reeves, so maybe this is why. But also, maybe these Rotten Tomato scores are why. Because this baby coming in hot, 10%. Critics score 10. Audiences, though, not much better, 16%. Now, apparently there's people out there who like this because, as I said on our live show previously, I put a clip of this and people were just, why are you talking about my movie? I'm like, I didn't know this was anyone's movie, but whatever. We're about to break it down. But what do you think about those scores? Pretty trash.
Honestly, is it going to reflect our movie review, right? Because every time you give those Rotten Tomato scores, I always think of, how does it come with my score in that review? And I'm not going to reveal which side of the coin it is, but from a 10 to a 14, it's not that kind of hard to figure out where we're going to lean towards of this. But yeah, I'm not shocked. It's not shocking at all. I'm very surprised that they went 4 films with this Superman. Very shocking. But again, we're going to break down for you this movie for fun. We're going to throw out all those Rotten Tomato scores. We're going to throw out all those box office numbers. Who cares for those? Yeah. But let's get right into the actual movie review. Starting off with the lead character himself, Christopher Reeves, as Clark and Superman for the final time.
Okay, so we've established, now that we're watching these, we've established I don't like Superman, okay, as a character. But I'm really trying to give the benefit of the doubt because this is a different medium, right? This is a film. I don't think about the comics. You can't think about the comics with this movie because Superman has magic powers now. He has magical powers. Mm-hmm. Now, I understand the comic book powers, right? He's got increased super strength. He can fly, speed, super fast. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, all that crap. You know what I mean? He can fly. But in this movie, he can also make magic bricks just appear out of nowhere, just appear. He can lift people up and float them around, just all kind of weird stuff that doesn't make any sense. That being said, I hope this review doesn't come off as controversial, but I think I liked Superman in this better than I liked him in part 3. So I only gave him a 3 in part 3. I actually gave him a 4 here. And maybe it's because I think they did, even though they had magical powers that I didn't like, that'll keep it from being a 5. But I do think this Clark Kent felt more like 1 and 2 to me. Maybe it's because Lois was like back in the movie. I think he does need Lois as even if she's not the main, because there's the other girl that's trying to like get his attention or whatever. Even that little, those things, they add some human. He has to have some human parts, and I thought it was pretty good. I honestly, I didn't hate. There's other things in this movie we're gonna get to that I hate, but Christopher Reeves' performance is not one of them. I thought he was really good again, and I like the portrayal of Superman better than 3, but not as good as 1 or 2. So I give him a 4.
It's kind of, you gave him a 4, but for me, it did not work. I did not like the Superman. You can see he aged. He's an aged Superman, right? Trying to portray a Superman that was young. Superman 1 and 2. And if I was a writer, knowing that Christopher Reeves is older, he's up there, should have wrote for that type of part. Finally getting Lois to tell him, the truth. And you know what I mean? Like finally
settle
just get
down
that
a little bit.
Yeah, basically having Superman and Lois together for the final movie.
Yeah.
I would have been like, you know what? That's actually pretty cool, right? 87, they're still at their peak, and it was a shame. We didn't get that. They just continued the whole corny Superman and everything. So for me, it felt flat. There's a lot of scenes in the movie that I was cringed. I was like, I wish they just would have went the route that I was talking about. He does tell him that he's Superman, but then again, the super tongue comes out and then she forgets. And it's funny because she said that one line that said, I always knew, but she just never told nobody. And that's, I guess I was like, okay, that's actually cool. But then he just does it again. It's like, she's loyal. Like, why would you just erase her memory again? Like, it is right. It just makes no damn sense. Christopher Reeves, I will always say it, he is a staple of Superman. He will always be everyone's thought. When you say Superman, it's always going to be now Henry Cavill, Christopher Reeves, depending on which generation that you're lived in, whether it's the 80s and 70s or whether you're in the 2000s present time, you got to take your pick. And it's not right or wrong. I don't want people to be like, oh, like if you pick Christopher Reeves, I have no problems with it because, again, you heard our reviews. He is Superman. You look at him, you're going, holy crap. He's not muscular, but he has the mannerisms down packed. You're like, holy crap. It's just a shame that it came in an era that technology wasn't there for films, because if he had the technology that Henry had, I guarantee you his movies would have been selling way more than what we got. And I don't know if you agree with me on that.
His Clark is so much better than Henry Cavill's Clark that it's not even close. I'll at least say that. Absolutely. Like his Clark Kent is way better than Henry Cavill's Clark Kent.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of when it comes to Superman donning the suit, you're going to have the differences. He's not muscular. Yeah, and Henry Cavill's just straight out ripped out of the new comics. I mean, ripped to the bone. And I'm okay with it. We're going to get to those movies, and I'm okay with it. But again, if you come to me and you say Christopher Reeves won, Henry, I have no problems with that, because you know what? That's my ranking as of right now in terms of look and it's just either way. But yeah, I gave him a 3. I think he was good. I just feel like for the final movie, he was good. He wasn't like great or perfect as the other ones. Okay, main villain, Nuclear Man. Nuclear Man.
Now, I wanted to be fair. Here.
Okay.
I did. I you know what? I had to be fair. As the fact that the last villain was another man person, you know what? Automatically, I started Nuclear Man at a different score, right? I give him credit. He beats the crap out of Superman for most of the time. Like, Superman doesn't just walk through this guy. This guy dominates him for most of the fights. They go to the moon, Superman puts him in the elevator and puts him in the moon, and then he gets a little drop of sunlight, boom, busts it out, hammers him in like a whack-a-mole because apparently the moon is just made out of sand. But whatever. Like, he was wrecking him, right? So I in that regard, as far as a formidable opponent, I'm not going to take anything away. Does how he comes to exist make any sense at all? No, not at all. Very dumb. They took a hair from Superman, and they I love how they didn't explain it. They said, we'll reverse engineer some technology and mix it with technology. And that's what their explanation was technology. And they have them little like tubes full of liquid and all, like the super corny. And then all of a sudden they put a little piece of fabric in a thing and it makes him into a suit with an N on it. And I'm like, what in the world is this? It's very corny. Also, he doesn't talk, and you did mention Gene Hackman does his voice. I see why. Because he's his dad or whatever. He's really stupid. He's a stupid villain. So the only thing that prevented him from getting the 1 from me was that he can fight. He gets a 2 for that. Because I don't like him. He is not a character. He is Lex Luthor extended. You know what I mean? That's all he is. He's an extension of Lex Luthor, except with fighting abilities. He looked hard. The actor's horrible. The actor's absolutely terrible. He's strong looking, but the suit is stupid. And you're telling me with all the comics and all, the best they could come up with was Nuclear Man? Is he even from the comic books? You tell me. I don't know.
I don't know. I
never
can't
heard
help
of him?
you with that. I never heard of him.
I'm going to assume he's not. I'm going to assume he's made up just for this movie because this movie made up a lot of stuff. So the best they could make up was Nuclear Man. And the other reason he gets a 2, and I'm done. The fact that if it's not daytime, he's useless. He just powers down like he's a computer. You know, he goes into rest mode anytime he's in the dark. Yeah. That is okay. Superman has kryptonite, but this guy literally just darkness. You just put him in a dark room and he shuts down. Horrible, horrible, horrible weakness. It gets a 2 because at least he beats up Superman quite a bit.
Okay, so when it came to his name is Mark Pillow. That's who plays Nuclear Man.
I needed a pillow. I was watching this movie. Yeah.
So I had a problem with this movie, and I'm not going to get into storyline or whatever, because this movie had multiple villains, right? You had Nuclear Man, you had Gene Hackman back as Lex Luthor, you had John Cryer as his cousin, Lenny Luthor. Then you had, what's his name? I know his name was
the newspaper guy.
Yeah, Werfield. Yeah. Lucy Werfield's his daughter, but I forgot the name of the old guy. But anyway, you got those guys in for Clark's plot, because that's that's affected by Clark until
Clark
later.
Is a villain.
Yeah, so there was way too many villains, and I said, why do we have so many villains? But it is what it is. When it comes down to Nuclear Man, he's not good. I mean, and the crazy thing is like his defense, he has nails that extract mad long, and it goes because there's all lightning. And then when they're trying to fight in the air, he's like,
he can pick people up too. Man.
Yeah, and. It did not work. I'm sorry. I was trying to look for the cool parts. The only cool part in this movie when he scratched him in the neck and then he just lost his power because he's gonna die. And I was like, okay,
with the one scratch.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. Other than that, he is garbage. And then when he took him at the end and put him into nuclear power plant and everything started to power up again,
that was so stupid. He just dropped him in a tube, and then now the whole Earth is powered forever.
Yeah, I said, I'm sorry. I gave his ass a 1.
Wow.
I didn't like him, and the way they made him was, I agree with you. It was like Lex Luthor's science experiment, because he was like, I have the secret of life. And I was just like, how? And you were in prison like 2 days ago. And he had a brain, because I said in the box, it was a box of brain. Then he took Superman's thin hair, which I'm like, you can't even pick it up if it's, anyway, it is what it is. He picked it up, he puts it in, sprinkled it with a little bit of his, I guess, himself in it. And you're right, he cut 2 ribbons.
2 ribbons, and that made a whole costume.
It made a boot.
And it made it fit him perfect, and a cape.
Yeah.
And a logo.
And I agree with you. I don't like his powers at all. I mean, his powers is kind of, I guess if you would have made Nuclear Man now, with all the technology and modern stuff, he would look better, right? He would look good. But back then, it just did not work for me. It just, and the flying and everything looks so bad. And I don't want to nitpick on that stuff. Yeah, but come on.
I can't wait.
It's just, Anyway, I gave it a 1. You gave it a 2. Action sequence, if there was.
1. This is a 1. Now, I know I just said Nuclear Man beats up Superman a lot. And he does. But it looks so horrible. The whole movie when you said this movie had a $17 million budget, I thought that was too high. Even for 1987. What? This came out 87?
87.
Oh, God. I came out in 87. This is just, I'm ashamed now.
Listen, Man.
I'm Nuclear Man. This movie looks like it cost $1,000 to make.
Yeah.
First of all, they reuse flying shots multiple times of Superman like flying at the camera. It's the same exact shot like multiple times. I'm like, you couldn't refilm this or just do another shot? Why do you keep showing the same one? Horrible. Number 2, like the fights. They fight, but it is so slow. They're moving so slow. Like they're slowly flying through the sky. Now, Superman is faster than a speeding bullet. But not in these movies, especially not in this one. They fly so slow. And I get they didn't have the technology. But look, in Superman 2, well, the version I watched, and Superman 1, he flies around the earth and reverses time. So they made the little zooming. Just put the little zooming blur. Like, what is this? Why does he fly so slow? We get more rockets. No rockets. You know, it's not a Superman movie if he ain't throwing some rockets somewhere. So we get more rockets. We get one or two of those more of like, oh no, where's Superman? He saves the day from some crap, like some useless thing that he should not be wasting his time on. He saves them. Yeah, it was all bad. It looked cheap. It wasn't exciting. I didn't like watching it. 1.
Look, I'm not holding us back. I gave it a 1. I didn't like it. Everything, like you said, everything just looks so choreographed, horrible. Even when they're fighting, you could tell like there's no effort. And I don't want to speak for Christopher Reeves because he passed away, but it really looks like he did not give a shit in this movie. Like, if you really look, I think he gave up. He was just like, this is horrible. Like, when they're fighting and he's holding his hand in the air and they're going, huh, 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 huh. And I was like, this is not good. I was like, this is not. And I don't want people to be like, oh, but you're nitpicking because of the decade. I am not. I'm trying to find a good spot in this movie. But like I said, the only good spot is when he scratches him holding the Statue of Liberty. But by the way, that scene was kind of cool when they were picking up the Statue of Liberty. It looked actually pretty real.
Sure.
But other than that, the fighting sequences got awful. It was just,
I don't think you're nitpicking. I don't think you're nitpicking because the movies before this are older and they all look better.
Yes.
So how is that a nitpick? Because they got cheap? They spent less money because it's a canon film. That's the problem.
I agree with you. The General Zod fight, we could pick it. We could laugh at it all we want.
At least better than
that was
Man.
Even him getting hit into a truck looked better than him getting pounded into dirt. Like it just
like a whack-a-mole into the.
And I'm like, dude, you're Superman. Why are gravity stopping you? You could walk on the moon. You could do all this stuff.
Why are you slow on the moon?
Yeah, you're not supposed to be slow on the. Look, it is what it is. I gave it a 1. You gave it a 1.
Yeah.
Storyline.
All right. And I'm being 100% honest here. I didn't hate the storyline at its core. Now, I wanted to give some kind of something, right? So I boiled this story down to its base core. And I like it. I think it's not bad. Superman at this point, he's around, he exists. There's a nuclear, like a Cold War type thing, right? Which I do like in this movie, how they keep calling it like, what do they call it? They call it like, not the situation, the crisis. They keep calling it the crisis, but they don't really say they don't really describe it. They just be like, the crisis. Superman, can you fix the crisis? And he gets a letter from the kid, and the kid is like, come on, Superman, solve the crisis. That concept I like. A super powered being who can end war by doing what he does, getting rid of it. I don't mind it. I think it's pretty good. Now, what you needed and what holds it back is you needed a better foil to that. Someone who wanted to stop him from doing that. Not Nuclear Man. That's not what they needed. Or, you know what? It could have been called Nuclear Man because it's nuclear missiles. But the goal should have been to not allow Superman to get rid of the nuclear missiles and all that kind of stuff. But that's not what they ended up doing. So I think it's a mix of good ideas. I know Christopher Reeve came up with the story. He didn't write the script, but he wrote the story idea. And I think he was on the right track a bit, but I'm guessing when they wrote the script, it was a little different than probably what he, his original whole ideas. So I'm torn. And when I'm torn, I can't totally crap on it. There's a lot of bad stuff, but I think a lot of what I think is horrible about this, I'm going to put in overall. The story I don't think is terrible, but it's also a missed opportunity. I gave it a 3.
Yeah, it's funny. The story gave it a 2. And I do agree with you. I did like that plot of the movie. And the reason I gave it a 2 was I enjoyed that part of the movie. When it came to Nuclear Man and all that other crap, it just destroyed me giving a higher point for the actual overall premise of the story. And I agree. It did work for me. I was like, wow, actually, that's pretty cool. I mean... The kid was actually pretty funny, right? Because they were like, what's wrong, Timmy? He was like, there's only one man that can stop it.
Just like, they're in class, he's just staring out the window.
Yeah, all sad and mopey. What's wrong, Timmy?
It's a crisis.
Yeah, and then, then Mr. Wayfield, right, was like, well, we could take this and make publicity because it could sell papers. And I was like, that could work. I was like, I kind of like that. Drew Superman out, right? And he did. Superman said, go to hell, drop dead kid. And I was like, oh, that's messed up. And Lois got mad. So you got, all the stuff that we wanted in the other movies with Lois and Superman protecting Superman. You got it here. She was like, what are you doing? She got mad. She was like, all this. And then Superman, she goes like, there's a letter for Superman. And then my favorite part is she goes, why is there a letter for Superman coming to the Daily Planet? Right?
Right.
And then that's when Lacey Worth, they read it and it was like, Mr. Superman, I hope you can stop the world from blowing itself up.
Stop the crisis.
Yeah, stop the crisis. And then he stood there and he was like, and my favorite was so dramatic, right? He walked to the glass and he took it off and he was like,
That's right. Thinking about it.
But I gotta say though, the speech that he gave in the United Nations was like one of the awesome speeches. Cause come on, granted, we're in 2022. Yeah. Superman in all the movies that we've seen coming up has not gave a speech like that. Right? Like a speech that you're just gonna go, damn man, this dude is like, I'm rooting for my man. Like he just stood there. He was like, hey Timmy, go to the second balcony because I'm gonna give you guys a show. And he went there, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I liked it. I thought that speech was like perfect. Like he delivered it like the Man of Steel. He was like, today, we're gonna end nuclear war or whatever the hell it is, and I was like, yeah. And then the music kicked in, which did not sound like John Williams. Well, it sounded like a variation of it, but I was
John Williams' score though.
It is.
He wrote the music, but he didn't conduct it.
No, he did. You could tell. You could tell because it didn't hit the right notes when it needed to happen. Mm-hmm. But let me just tell you, I was kind of pumped when he started walking and everyone was clapping and he just took off.
Yeah.
But then that's when the movie just went boom, boom. But other than that,
after that is not as good.
It's not as good. I agree with you. That would have been actually that could have still worked now if they remake it. But with that said, I gave it a 2. You gave it a 3.
A 3
overall.
Okay, so. I kind of like the storyline. I like Christopher Reeve in this. I didn't like this movie. Don't get me wrong. This is not an endorsement. It's bad. I didn't like it. But I probably liked it more than 3. It's a little bit shorter than 3. It's a little less boring than 3. You know what I mean? So I thought it was better than 3. I mean, that's not saying much, but it's still terrible. Mariel Hemingway, she plays the other love interest. She was all right. I didn't mind her. Yeah, I didn't mind her. I think it's weird that she was super mega attracted to Clark Kent. He looks like a nerd, and she's just like, oh my gosh, Clark Kent. Like he's such a good guy. And then again, he is just Superman with glasses on. But his characteristics, the way he acts is nothing like Superman. So it is a little weird that she's super sprung on Clark like that. Also, what was going on with Lois Lane in this movie? Now, I know Margot Kidder, she had drug problems, and the way she talks was weird. The way her voice sounded was weird. I was sad. I didn't really like seeing it that much. You know what I mean? I loved her in the first 2. I honestly did. I thought the character was weird, but I loved Margot Kidder in them. This one, it didn't even seem like old. She just seemed like she was having issues. I don't know. Yeah. And then the effects are so bad. It's so cheap. It's poorly made. It's poorly directed. The acting is fine for the most part, but also you have a lot of people returning. You're not going to get a bad Gene Hackman performance. You know what I mean? So that's impossible. John Cryer was annoying. But overall, I didn't hate this as much as 3, but I didn't like it. I gave it a 2.
It's funny. Everything you said, spot on. I gave it a 2. Now, I did enjoy a lot of this stuff. I enjoy the plot. Christopher Reeves did what he had to do. I enjoyed it for what that was. Gene Hackman was fun. I think he was a good Lex Luthor. If you really look at, I know you had problems with it because he was a goofball and all that. Right.
Too corny.
But I thought he was good. He was consistent, right? In the 4th movie, he was consistent. He was a consistent goofball. I don't like when he gets henchmen. Just never worked for me. And his cousin was even a doofy. But then again, the 80s, John Cryer was famous for his 16 Candles and all the other crap he did. So I was like, all right, cool. My only nitpick, bro. Oh my God. Lucy Wayfield. Nuclear Man took her to outer space without a suit.
I meant to say that. How could she not freeze or run out of oxygen? How could she breathe in space?
Dude.
How?
When I saw that, I said, what is going on? And that's when I went, I cannot give this higher than a 2. You can't.
I forgot that. I had that in my notes and I forgot.
That it was so bad. And I said, okay, I can't. Other than that, I had no problems. I love Clark. Clark was cool. You're so right. Lois Lane, she had this slur.
Yeah.
And I felt bad because you do hear people that are addicted to some type of drug, they get that slur. And I know she was heavy on drugs. So maybe at that time, or maybe she was just, again, maybe I'm not putting words in her mouth, she died too, but maybe she was doing drugs at the time of filming. That could happen. Some people do drugs and drink on sets.
It was pretty sad to watch.
Yeah, it was pretty sad. But she was still lovable Lois. And you're right, man. Oh, something always got to happen when Superman come out. He's mad late to the train. And what happened? The guy caught a heart attack on the train.
Yeah.
He's like, help! And he goes and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Clark must be like, I can't go near this chick. She's like a magnet of death. Yeah. But anyway, with that said, I gave it a 2. You gave it a 2. Total points. Total
points for me was a 12, I think. 12 out of 25. Look, I didn't hate. The best part of this is that it's the shortest one. So it wasn't very long. It's like an hour, 45 minutes. Music's pretty good, better than 3. A lot of it's better than 3. So I feel like by default, I hated it less, but I still didn't like it. I'll never watch it again. I never need to own this. 12 out of 20.
I gave it a 9 out of 25. Nah, it's higher than it's higher than Superman 3. I think that we gave it a 5 across for horror. Yeah, that's like the worst.
Superman
rating.
3 was the worst one.
Yeah. This one had potential. But again, it's his final role in the Superman suit, which I had no problems with it. He was still good. But yeah, I gave it a 9 out of 25. Nate.
All right. So with that said, next episode, we are starting a new month, right? It's March now. And we are beginning, we're out of the Black History Month and we're moving on to the decades. Now, we're going to be going through all the decades, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Well, that's not all the decades, but all the action movie decades, not a lot of 60s action movies. And these are all voted on by you guys on Instagram. I put up polls. The first one will be, and this is I can't believe we made 136 episodes before getting to a Bruce Lee film.
Yeah.
But we'll be reviewing Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee, first one for the 1970s. And then, of course, next week we're done with Christopher Reeve. We're moving on to the one-time Superman, Brandon Routh, in Superman Returns. And that'll be the next in the Superman franchise.
Yeah, if you guys want to follow us on our social media accounts, please follow Nate over on Instagram at Netflix Reviews. Check out the podcast with him and his friends called Netflix Movie Reviews. Anything action movie, guys, head over to www.youtube.com/Levels of Geeks for the video version of the podcast. Right now, we're up to 66. Throughout the weeks, we're going to continue putting on more to catch us up to the current. And then every week will be simultaneous with the audio and video coming out at the same time. But with that said, if you guys want to take us on the go with you guys, you could listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio,
Spotify.
And Spotify. Yeah, you just hit the search, put Action Movie Guys, hit those subscribe buttons, listen to us, rate us. Well, other than that, I'm your host, Alex Figueroa, and that is
Nate from Netflix Reviews.
Be awesome to each other and geek out.